Hey everybody, it's been 3 months, but we are back. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's just jump right on into it. The date is September 1st, 2018, and you're listening to episode 4 of the Star Wars Canon Podcast.
What a piece of junk.
There were stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the epic, triumphant return of the Star Wars Canon Podcast. It is I, Brian Miller. I am your host and the librarian of the Canon Library. With me, as always, is the dark side to my light side, Mr. Christopher Stolle. Dude, it is so great to be back. It is so great to be back.
Just call me Darth Balls.
Darth.
Bong! Always two there are. No more, no less. A right one and a left one.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's going to be that kind of a show, guys. You know what? It's been, 3 months since we did an episode of the Canon Podcast. So, we've got so much to talk about, so much to catch up on. But first, I figured we'd talk a little bit about why the break, and it's mainly my fault. It really is. For those of you that are new to the Canon Podcast or, have kind of been wondering where we've been and you didn't see anything else that I put out, my day job is I work at a grain elevator in Kansas. So come May, June, and July, I'm in the middle of my wheat harvest. And then at the end of July this year, Kirsty and I bought a house. So we spent the rest of the time the rest of the summer moving. I decided to push it off for a few months and kind of come back with a vengeance. So here we are. That's why we've been gone for so long. Have been putting a couple of updates out on the YouTube channel about some of the shows that's coming up. But speaking of shows that are coming up, Chris, go ahead and let everybody know. And not only are we doing the podcast now, which will be weekly, by the way, on the YouTube channel. But what else? We've also got the Facebook Q&As happening every month. And then for the Patreon exclusives, we've got some special stuff for the Patreon. You want to go ahead and lay some of that out?
Well, of course, we have the Canon Library after shows, which will be weekly for each show. I'll let Brian give the details of that.
The after shows was going to be sit down and watch an episode of Rebels or Clone Wars or a story arc of it and then do an after show based off the show. Because we've got so many new TV shows coming out. We've got Jon Favreau's live action show. We've got Resistance coming. We've got a new season of Clone Wars coming. Which we'll talk about all that later on in the show. But I figured we would get caught up and watch some Rebels and kind of go through it episode by episode to get ready for Clone Wars and Resistance and then Jon Favreau's show whenever that decides to drop, whenever the Disney streaming service decides to drop. So that's what After Shows is. But then we're also going to be doing a monthly episode. I haven't come up with an official name for it yet, so if anybody has a good idea for a name for it, let me know. But essentially what we're doing is just talking about one of the novels. Each month I'm going to try to sit down and reread one of the new canon novels with a couple excluded. If you guys know me at all, you know which ones I'm talking about. But we're going to sit down and actually break down the novels bit by bit, kind of go into spoiler territory with it. And that'll be on the Patreon exclusively also. We've also got a show coming called Jedi Issues, which is essentially like, I guess, what would that be? Journal of the Jedi version 2.0?
That would be where we lay on a couch and talk about how love is attachment, but compassion is essential to a Jedi's life.
We are going to be talking Star Wars comics. We're going to make this show. I put weekly in the show notes. Chris says it shows weekly, but I think we're going to make that monthly, just because it's going to be hard to kind of make a monthly show, a weekly show based off just a couple of comics. So I think we're going to make that monthly and talk about all the comics that come out. Plus, I mean, you and I both get our comics, once a month, don't we?
Pretty much.
So I figured we'd just sit down, get our pull files, and read through them and kind of go from there.
Although I'm about a half a year behind.
Oh, man, you have got to see. I know where your tax return's going this year.
Yeah.
And also, all of the spoiler reviews for the Canon Library will be on there from now on. So we'll put non-spoiler reviews on the YouTube channel and the reaction videos to any trailers, stuff like that. But anything that's spoilery was going to be on the Patreon from now on. And then also, if you're a Patreon, I have got made up some exclusive Star Wars Canon Library bookmarks for your Canon material. So if you become a Patreon, you'll get one of those. I think the Patreon asks for your address. That's the only thing I use it for, is to send you out a bookmark. So, or if you win any contest, we may do somewhere down the road. If you win a copy of a novel or something, I'll know how to get it to you. But that's all the new content we got coming. Chris and I have sat down and kind of talked about some of the stuff we wanted to do for you guys. So that's what we've come up with. So if you guys are interested in any of that content, head on over to the Patreon page. I'll put the link in the description below. That way you guys can find that and check it out. And even if you don't decide to help us out and to support us, with a donation, just know we still do appreciate you guys being followers, and we still appreciate you guys clicking that play button and giving us a listen. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But we've also got another thing coming up. Chris and I have talked. We are going to be purchasing military-style dog tags with the Star Wars Canon Library logo on them. We're going to be selling them for $5 a piece. If you guys are interested in one of those, just email us or drop a comment below and let us know. Those will be on sale on the website. But the proceeds for those, I think for me to buy them in bulk, it's like $1 a dog tag. So I'm going to take out just enough to cover the cost of the dog tag. But the rest of the sale price all the proceeds are going to be going to the Wounded Warrior Project. So that's not a profit for any of us. That's just strictly something we're trying to do for Wounded Warriors. Chris and I are both veterans, so it's something that really means a lot to us, and thought we'd kind of throw that out there.
Also, I know this is a Star Wars Canon podcast, and not it is sister to Realm of the Mist, or part of Realm of the Mist, but what I'm about to announce, it deals with Star Wars, so it makes sense to do with it, but it covers all of Realm of the Mist. Last week, we did an interview with Dr. Janice Liddell on War of the Stars, and she was the author of the now discontinued and out-of-print book, Star Wars in History. And she has graciously offered to donate a couple books to Realm of the Mist for us to put up as auction. And, of course, we're going to do that for you guys throughout all the shows. Highest bidder of these books, we figure, will be the ones that get the books. And that 100% of proceeds go to Wounded Warrior. So we keep nothing of that. That will definitely, and I will absolutely send you the confirmation of that, so that way you know what you paid for that book went to the Wounded Warrior Project.
Yes, sir. It's really the only profit we're really out to make at all is off the Patreon, really. So, I mean, and even that, we just do this because we love it, and we really, I put together the recording schedule last night, and I was talking to Chris when I was doing it, and I about realized I was breaking myself off when I was making this podcast list. So we put all this work in for you guys, and just because we really enjoy doing it. But speaking of Realm of the Myths, I'm speaking to everybody here that's a Patreon supporter of Star Wars Canon Library, and of course all the people on the Star Wars Canon Library YouTube channel. Guys, Star Wars Canon Library is a part of Realm of the Mist Entertainment. Please come over to Realm of the Mist, hit a like and subscribe there. The Patreon page, show some love and support there. Your boy Brian Miller is pretty much on every one of those shows as well. So if you want to see more content with Brian Miller, make sure you give us some love, because we're constantly, it's daily we put out content. Daily, whether it's Press A Gaming, Breaking the Fourth Wall, War of the Stars. We rebroadcast the Star Wars Canon podcasts, do stuff with the other guys like the Cockroach Cockpit. There's always content every day on the channel. So send out a subscribe, send out a like. If you're feeling generous, go ahead and donate $1 to the Realm of the Mist Patreon page. That will give you early access to all the shows, as well as some exclusive content that is coming soon. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll get the newest video, which was actually the announcement of one of those exclusives that will be given only to Patreon supporters. And speaking of Cockroach Cockpit, also, that's another podcast that is kind of up and coming that we've been talking to quite a bit, and we do. Well, I guess I don't do it weekly, but Chris, you do weekly Battlefront 2 videos. I say bi-weekly for me because I don't have an Xbox One. I just have a PlayStation 4, so I can only join in every 2 weeks. But every week they alternate between Xbox One and PS4, and really all it is we sit around, play Battlefront, and kind of bullshit. Really, that's really all it is.
Once in a while we'll get into Star Wars conversations, but more
Oh, yeah.
often than not, we just talk a lot of shit and laugh at each other's stupid jokes.
And take each other's kills, and so
Shut up, campers.
it's a legitimate strategy. But anyway, but yeah, that's kind of what we got going on for you guys. Kind of what we have lined up, and kind of our. I guess that's our way of apologizing for the 3-month break that we just did. So, because I've been getting comments on YouTube videos asking when new content was coming out and all this other stuff. And I thought it was interesting too. The Canon library was getting more subscribers during the break than I was putting out content last year. So
Maybe that's what I need to do with Realm of the Mist. Just shut everything down.
maybe just shut it down for a while.
For a half a year and see if people want to subscribe.
That's hey, apparently it works. Hey, and speaking of that, if you guys are listening to this right now on the Canon Library and you're a new follower and this is the first thing you're hearing of the first of the new content you're hearing, welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm so glad to have you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't even be doing this. So, thank you guys so much for the subscribe and the follow. But what do you say we get into? Oh, go ahead.
Before we do, let's give one last announcement, which you kind of alluded to a little bit with Jedi Issues being the Journal of the Jedi 2.0.
Yeah.
That does not mean Journal of the Jedi is gone. In fact, it has evolved. It has become the Bindu because now it serves two masters. Realm of the Mist Entertainment in joint with the Cockroach Cockpit, and that will be coming soon, and that will be a Twitch TV exclusive on the Cockroach Cockpit channel. So, guys, check that out. You'll love it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that pretty much sums up everything we got going on. What do you say we talk about some news, man? Because we have got a lot to cover. This is the first time the Canon Library has really been back in the last 3 months, and there are some followers wanting to know some of our opinions on some stuff.
Well, I got a bit of news before you jump into your written news, and it was on the news this morning. You know, normally we don't talk about like real life issues and stuff like that on our Star Wars podcast, but this one, it ties in with Star Wars, so it kind of makes sense to talk about it.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly where this happened, but there was a fifth grader kid, a 10-year-old kid, who got bullied and beat up, and the kid beat the shit out of him. Okay, and the kid refused to fight back, and the mom tweeted about this because of the fact she showed the picture and he had a black eye. It was all swollen and stuff like that. But when asked why he didn't fight back, the kid said because it's not the Jedi way.
Yeah, I saw that story, yeah.
And it caught the attention of Mark Hamill, who is now attempting to track down this kid.
Oh, man, that's cool.
So that's some Star Wars news for you right there. First off, right on to the kid. I mean, in this day and age where everybody's more than willing to beat the hell out of somebody and have no respect for personal space or personal safety, it's nice that Star Wars has taught the morals in some way to at least this kid. You know what I mean? And that in the world of Star Wars toxicity that's going on right now in the fandom, it's nice to see that there is still positive that flows in some of the fan base, and that's definitely one of them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you look too, depending, I guess, where you look, but I've noticed a lot too on social media and stuff that the negativity behind Star Wars is, I don't want to say it's died off, but it's definitely not to the level that it was, 6-7 months ago. So I mean it is nice to kind of see, because everybody has kind of vented their distaste and their hatred, I guess you could say, depending on what level of spectrum you're on, for Last Jedi.
Good. Let the hate flow through you.
But I'm assuming everybody kind of got it out of their system. So every once in a while you'll still see somebody, oh, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi were trash, and like, well, you still live in your parents' basement. So, but anyway, let's talk about some news, and we've got quite a bit to talk about too. I don't want to dwell on too much on each one too long. I'm trying to keep the podcast to hour and a half, somewhere along in there, maybe an hour, depending on how long we go. But also keep this in mind, guys. At the end of this podcast, we're not going to be doing any mailbag questions just for this episode. Usually we're going to be doing a few mailbags at the end, but essentially all the mailbag questions we got were news topics that we're going to be talking about anyway. So we will be doing mailbag later on in the next episode. So just keep that in mind. But guys, right off the bat, let's talk about the big thing that happened over the break. Clone Wars is coming back.
Yay!
Chris, how surprised were you when Dave Filoni came out and said, hey, we're going to give you guys one more season to kind of cap off Clone Wars?
Surprise, not really. Anticipation beyond belief. Because, I mean, I enjoyed the Lost episodes, a.k.a. Season 6, but it really did end off... Well, what's the best way I could put this? It was definitely open for more. It was a nice enough send-off with the break-off from Ahsoka, being accused of murder and stuff of that nature, and being exonerated. But at that point, she let the Jedi order an Anakin because she could no longer trust them. But it didn't really feel like a closure, especially to lead into episode 3, which is what Clone Wars was supposed to do. So I'm really looking forward to this season.
Oh, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And there's certain things, when you think about it, that this season has to have in it. It has to, because if you think about it, well, I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed that this season is going to end with Revenge of the Sith, right? I mean, lead right into episode 3. We're assuming that's going to happen, right?
Well, as I said, I think the final scene of the final episode is Anakin and Obi-Wan get the call from the council to say that the Chancellor has been kidnapped.
Well, see, I'll take it a step further than that. Personally, I think this new season of Clone Wars is going to end like halfway through Revenge of the Sith when Order 66 is happening, because you're going to see it from the point of view of the clones and what's going on with Ahsoka. Last year, Dave Filoni was talking about how Ahsoka's story kind of ended with Clone Wars, and it's Anakin giving her the 501st to go to Mandalore and to fight Maul. Because remember in Rebels, Maul was referring to Ahsoka as Lady Tano. Right. We don't know where that came from. So, we know that story's going to be told. But wouldn't it be something to see Order 66 from the point of view of the clones, especially the ones that remove the inhibitor chip, and all of a sudden all the clones around him start turning on the Jedi, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing? Well, that's the general, Like, can you imagine seeing Order 66 again from a fresh perspective with new Jedi than the ones we've already seen die?
Well, I can imagine it, but if you're asking me, do I want to see it on the last season of Clone Wars? Not really, no. Do I want to see another Clone Wars movie that centers around that?
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
And
yes, absolutely.
So what you're saying is do another season of Clone Wars and then end it on another film?
Yes.
Oh, okay, now that would be sick.
Bookend the films. You got your shit film that nobody liked, but for some reason gave birth to this awesome TV show.
Yeah.
And then you finish off the TV show, like I said, with the Chancellor's been kidnapped. Mm-hmm. And then, you release... I don't care if it's straight to DVD. I mean, I'll still buy it day one. Let Dave Filoni make a film out of Order 66.
I know that'd be... Oh, my God. With the Clone Wars.
With the Clone Wars.
Oh, man, that'd be freaking cool. Yeah, well, I mean, there's another thing that has to happen in this season, at least in my opinion, and think about this. Like, this would really... To see this in Clone Wars, to know that it's bringing it back to the classic trilogy, you have to see Padme finding out that she's pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that has to be in this season. It absolutely has to be. When she finds out she's pregnant, and in the Clone Wars series, she's pregnant with Luke motherfucking Skywalker, like...
And Leia.
And, well, yeah, but at the time, she didn't know well, that's true, but at the time, she thought it was just the one.
Right.
She didn't know it was twins. But, yeah,
right,
I mean...
but they didn't know it was a boy or a girl either.
Right. But, there's certain things that have to happen. I think the Ahsoka story is going to be a big one. I think we're going to see Maul return.
I just had a thought.
Oh,
you're saying you wanted to see Padme discovering she was pregnant on the Clone Wars TV show, a kid's cartoon. I'm just seeing her coming out of the bathroom holding a fucking like a dollar store pregnancy kit. Oh, Annie.
Oh my God. No, Jesus.
The Force was strong with you Thursday night.
Oh my God. See, and I think she's going to find that out early in the season, because I think throughout the rest of the season, it's going to be her trying to conceal the fact that she's pregnant with her clothing. Because remember, she used a lot baggier clothing and stuff in episode 3.
True, but it's the same indifference. If they're going to do that, they got to be careful about how they do. Dave Filoni has to be careful about how they do that, because you're going to have to keep Anakin separate from Padme. For at least,
well, what's the gestation period of a human being in Star Wars? Are we assuming it's still 9 months?
I assume so, but I mean...
Okay.
Storyline wise, you got to keep them separate from each other from the time she finds out, because canonically, Anakin does not find out until episode 3 when they're returning from saving the Chancellor. That's when he finds out she's pregnant.
Well, see, Well, like, we'll talk about this later on too, but Thrawn Alliances is happening during Clone Wars also. And if you read the first couple chapters, you find out this happens after Ahsoka leaves the Order. So this novel, the part of the novel with Anakin and Thrawn has to happen somewhere probably between the end of season 5 and this new season coming out. Because if this next season leads right into episode 3, it has to have happened somewhere in between there. So maybe, I mean, and the story is about Anakin trying to track Padme down. What if the conception, happens during that novel? I'm only like halfway through it right now, so I don't know. Maybe somebody listening to this right now has finished Thrawn Alliances going, "Oh, you idiots, you haven't finished it yet? Of course it happens." Or, "No, it doesn't happen. What's wrong with you?" But I haven't finished it yet, so.
Look, no spoilers. Just guarantee me there's no aliens masturbating in it.
Oh, God. Thank you, Kevin Hearn. But no, I'm over the moon excited about Clone Wars. I can't wait. And it's going to be an epic season. I feel like Dave Filoni with this season is going to be doing the same thing he did with the last season of Rebels, which was no filler episodes, just episode boom, 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 over. You know what I mean? Finale.
Well, they said it was only 13 episodes or something?
I think so, yeah. So it's going to be one that it's not going to have any of these side plots, you know what I mean? It's going to be what's going on, let's get through it, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Exactly.
So I think that's what it's going to be, and I'm beyond stupid excited for it. But speaking of television shows, though, we've also got the first trailer for The Resistance. That came out, a few weeks ago. I tried to do a reaction video to it. For some reason, YouTube decided my reaction wasn't good enough and wouldn't let me upload it. And then once it did let me upload it, it just deleted it. So what are your thoughts on Resistance, man?
This is one of the few times in podcast history you'll hear me say these words, but I plead the fifth. I'm not really a fan of the animation. It's Dave Filoni, so I expect it to be good. And of course I expect the first season to be a little kiddish. First off, it's on the Disney Channel, not Disney XD or anything. Plus, Clone Wars and Rebels all started kind of kiddish before they really delved dark. So, but I don't know enough about it to have anything more exciting about it, except for it's more Dave Filoni stuff. You know what I mean? So it's real. I don't want to talk negative on it, except for the fact that I don't care for the animation style. That being said, if that's my only gripe, right on. But I don't know enough about it to give an opinion one way or another, to be honest. One trailer was not enough.
See, I'm one that is always saying, give something a chance until, it doesn't deliver. I'm one of these people that stay positive, but I was looking at the trailer for this Resistance, and the more I'm looking at it, because this series takes place 6 months before Force Awakens. So I mean, how long can it possibly run, right? But you're right, the animation style kind of threw me off a little bit. It wasn't what I was expecting either. When they said anime style, I was expecting like Japanese anime.
Like that TIE fighter thing that was on Facebook for quite a while. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, if they would have done something like that, oh my God.
Yeah. But that's what I was kind of expecting. And then when I saw the trailer and it's kind of that 2D, 3D hybrid animation stuff, I was like, okay, well, that's not quite what I was expecting. But personally, like, for me, every time I see a poster for it now and you see all the characters and the ships, I'm going to say, I don't know if it's the popular thing or not, but I'm going to say it. It doesn't look or feel like Star Wars to me.
No.
It really doesn't, because there's ships we've never seen before. It looks, I don't know, for being in Star Wars, it almost looks too colorful.
That's really it. It looks too, and it's
vibrant.
The word I was going to use is it looks cartoony.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a cartoon, Chris.
No, I get that, but I mean,
but I get what you're coming from. Yeah.
The other ones, it felt like there was some love and attention to it to make it feel real, even though you knew it was a cartoon. This one, they're not hiding the fact that it's a cartoon. It's really how it feels to me.
Yeah, I don't like, that's the only thing I can think. And this is the first time something has come out. Now, the only reason I'm even like remotely excited for it is because, like you said, it's Dave Filoni. But other than that, this is the first time something's coming out where I'm just like, whatever.
Well, let's.
I'll do an after show for the Patreon when it starts coming out. But I'm not going to be, oh my God, I can't wait for the next episode. So.
Look, I'll put it to you this way: I have low expectations of enjoying the visual of the show. That being said, though, because it is Dave Filoni, I do have expectations of having a very deep and immersed story out of Resistance, and that's where my disappointment will be complete. My journey towards the dark side, if you will, because if Filoni doesn't give us his signature, we're gonna make everything go to shit, because we know where it's leading. It's leading to the full power of the First Order and the rise of Kylo Ren and the Resistance on the run, and of course the spoilers. But if you don't know what happened in The Force Awakens, what are you listening to the show for? The destruction of the New Republic and stuff like that. If it doesn't lead down that dark path that leads us into the new sequel trilogy, then to me it's just going to be filler and waste of time.
Well, the series has got Poe Dameron in it. Oscar Isaac's coming back for the voice of Poe Dameron. We're gonna have Phasma in there. Gwendolyn Christie is doing the voice of Phasma. But that leads one. Where does this? I mean, we know it takes place 6 months before Force Awakens.
Will Phasma actually do anything?
I don't know. But the thing is, I mean, we got the Poe Dameron comic there too that it's going to be buttoned up against, and the Poe Dameron comic kind of had Poe out on his own doing his own stuff. He wasn't doing the stuff from this series. So I'm assuming this series takes place before the Poe Dameron comic, which means it can only go so far, or Poe Dameron can only be in so much of it. But I don't know. Anyway, that's just, I guess we'll know more once it starts to air. And it airs, October 7th, I believe is its air date. Which I was kind of surprised because I guess I was just misinformed or I just didn't pay attention. Either is possible. The second one is probably the most likely, but I thought it was going to be on the streaming service. But the fact that it's coming out this year, that's awesome. You know, Rebels just ended. We don't have to wait a year for the next bit of, Star Wars animation from Filoni. So,
right.
Anyway, moving on, we got a lot to talk about still, and we're already at like the 25-minute mark. So, let's just jump right into this. I guess these next two we can kind of talk about back to back. Yeah, episode 9, possibly being split into 2 movies. I guess that's the rumor. And the wrapping for the principal photography right now is rumored to be February of 2019. These stories, like the second one, kind of null and voids the first one. Because if you're splitting episode 9 into 2 movies and you're doing 9 and 10 back to back, let's just call it 9 and 10. If you're doing 9 and 10 back to back, your principal shoot's going to be at least a year. And this principal shoot would be 6 months, because they started on August 1st and they're going to be going to February. So that's 6 months. So it kind of, what do you think? Do you think 9's being split into 2 movies now that we know the principal photography? I can't even talk. The principal photography for episode 9 could only be 6 months.
This is an audio podcast and he can't talk.
I can't talk.
Look, primarily, if I remember correctly from watching the behind the scenes of episode 1, for example, Star Wars principal photographies usually take about 3 to 4 months for a single film, and then the rest of the time is in post-production, the visual effects and blah blah blah. But the principal photography of character, now again we're talking about episode 1 where majority was CGI, and some practical but mostly CGI. Less CGI than people give it credit for, but still, where JJ does like to keep in the realm of reality as much as possible. I don't know. It could swing either way. It's in that time frame where it's longer than what you would normally expect for principal photography for Star Wars, but not necessarily long enough
for to
constitute 2 movies.
Well, could that just mean episode 9? If it's going to be one film, then if you got a 6-month shoot, you could be looking at, the longest running Star Wars film to date, and which would make a lot of sense with it being what they're calling the film to wrap up all 3 trilogies.
Well, see, that's where I kind of butt heads with myself here. Of course, I would love an episode 10. I keep Saga going.
I'm trying to talk myself. I keep talking myself out of everything too. The more I think about it.
Well, the more I think about it, the more I want to start a hashtag to shove down Lucasfilm's throat. Save the Skywalkers, man. Keep the saga alive. I get all the spin-off stuff. I get the Benioff and Weiss and the Rian Johnson and Favreau and the anthologies or Star Wars stories. I get it. I love it. Expand the universe all you want. But when you break it down to its core, Star Wars is the story of the Skywalkers. And I don't know. I've been with the franchise since the beginning. I don't know if I'm ready to let the Skywalkers go.
No, you're still holding on.
I basically, yeah. No, but the more I think about it, the more I just can't envision the Star Wars universe without a Skywalker running around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know the fate of what Ben Solo's going to be. We don't know. I mean, hell, for all we know, they could still come out in Episode 9, which to me at this point would feel like a cop-out, and say Rey was Luke Skywalker's daughter, I mean, at this point, it'd kind of be like, oh, really? But, you're right. I think they're saying the conclusion to the Skywalker saga. I think they're ending it. Because I think once they get through 9, they're just going to be focusing on all these different stories. I think they're going to be doing a lot of spin-off standalone films. And when I say a lot of them, I mean a lot of them. And plus you've got, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but Rian Johnson is still working on his trilogy, whether you want to believe it or not. And Benioff and Weiss,
I believe it. I think the answer is more whether you want it or not.
Right. And then you got Benioff and Weiss, which they're working on a quote unquote series of films, which in my book is 4 or more. If it was a trilogy, they would have said trilogy. If it was, a series, tells me 4 or more. So
I'm figuring they're the replacement of the saga, and the reason they're calling it series is because they don't want to call it saga and have people like, how come it's not with this saga, type deal. But I think they're setting up a brand new saga,
which I'm cool with. Give us. I mean, if they, because Benioff and Weiss are very, very deep storytellers, and they could come up with something, if they can come up with something that is along the same lines. Now, obviously, it's never going to touch the originals. Obviously, it's never going to. You could capture the same magic, but it's never going to be as... I mean, it's not going to be as... We're always going to look at the originals as the Star Wars trilogy. You know what I mean? But they could give us a new family or a new storyline that could be this secondary saga of, oh my God, okay, that was a great Skywalker saga, 9 films, but now we've got this we can focus on, and I want to know what happens next. So they could give us something just as great, down the road, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and kind of see. But the Episode 9 being split into 2 movies kind of touches on the other thing I wanted to talk about, the spinoff film that was supposedly put on hold that featured Tatooine. I mean, that's Obi-Wan. Evidence. I think that was an Obi-Wan film, and it lends credence to the film of Episode 9 being split into 2 movies, because if they put a standalone film on hold, they might be doing Episodes 9 and 10 back to back.
Well, see, that's again, besides not wanting to see the saga split, that's where I was going, or split, yeah, not see the saga end. I'm kind of torn between, do I want 2 movies, or do I just want, like you said, the longest Star Wars movie ever?
I would rather have one long film, because think about it. Anytime you've split a movie into 2 parts, right? Whether it be Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows, or Hunger Games Mockingjay, or anytime you've split the last film into 2, or the last whatever story into 2 films, they always come out a year apart from each other. And the first one is always all lead up to the second one. Nothing big happens in it. People walk away and say, well, that movie sucked. And then they don't give the next one a chance, which is all payoff from the first one. You know what I mean? So I would rather just have one massive, make a 3-hour Star Wars movie. I don't give a shit. I'll sit and watch it.
Cross his legs in his eyes because he's drinking that giant freaking movie soda. And really has to pee.
Milk,
yeah. And really has to pee, but there's still another hour to this film.
Yeah. No, and I'll do the same thing I did during Revenge of the Sith. I'll pee in my drink cup, because like when I went to the midnight release of Revenge of the Sith, I had to take a piss so bad right when the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin started to kick off. I was like, I'm not getting up. I'm not doing it. And I did. The lights were down. I looked around and I popped the lid and did it right there. I didn't give a crap.
I am so glad this is being recorded.
I know, isn't it great? But honestly, I really do feel like Disney and Lucasfilm need to roll the golden dice and just make one massive, long Star Wars film.
Well, not only because I think that would be a selling point to people, like you said, because although I argue with you on the fact that a year later people would lose interest because, again, it's a Star Wars film. You and I, before we go to any Star Wars film, always marathon the previous films, all of them. So you're caught up when you walk into the theater. So that argument to me is null and void. I do kind of agree with the fact that the first part is always a filler, and that may turn casual fans off. So the box office may not be as great, but I don't give a shit about the box office, man. You know, I cared when Force Awakens came out. I don't care anymore. As long as I got a solid story, I don't give a shit about the box office. But for me, I think the biggest thing for Star Wars is make sure this closure is right. And I don't want to placate to the Last Jedi haters or anything else, but this is your last and final opportunity with the Skywalker saga to bring the fandom back together.
No, you're completely right.
I'm not saying placate to them and have all of a sudden Mark Hamill's alive and so. No, you retcon some shit because even though I don't have an issue with Last Jedi, there's some things that JJ had set up for and Ryan kind of fucked it. Knights of Ren being nowhere to be seen, for example. I know, and we've had this discussion long and hard on Breaking the Fourth Wall, on War of the Stars. We have beat this horse to death, but I know for a fact there was more to Rey than just a nobody. I know for a fucking fact that she was not supposed to just be a nobody. I get what Ryan was trying to do, but JJ set something else completely up with it.
Well, see, I wonder if that's because I don't think he even had anything set up for it. Because we talked about this. When did we talk about it? We talked about I might have been I think it was Breaking the Fourth Wall, because we were talking about how when they had started this new trilogy, they needed to actually sit down and come up with a plan from the get-go and bring all three directors in for all three films and have them all three work together on the entire trilogy. You know, I'm pretty sure that's what we talked about. Because, you bring in JJ for, episode 7 and, have them all sit down together and write this whole thing out from beginning to end, right? Tell this whole story and then break it into 3 films. That's what they should have done from the get-go. Wrote one massive story. This is where we start. This is where we're getting to. And just break it into 3 films. Instead of making it up as you go, let each director do their own thing. At least then you have everybody on the same page. Everybody knows that there's going to be a big payoff at the end. And from the very get-go, we know where we're going. We can start planning stuff. In episode 7 that it's going to come back in episode 9. And you can plan stuff for episode 9 that's going to be callbacks to episode 7 and 8, stuff like that. That's what they should have done from the get-go. And possibly even, I'll go ahead and say it, set down, and it would have been a massive undertaking, but sit down with 3 different directors, write out all 3 films, make all 3 movies, and shoot them all 3 back to back.
Well, no, that would be too much of an undertaking. However, I would go this far. JJ started this. Okay, when Disney took this over and Kathleen Kennedy said we're coming out with a new trilogy, and JJ Abrams is the lead director and story writer with Larry Kasdan, JJ and Larry should have sat the fuck down, written down exactly the points they want to happen in all 3 movies.
7, 8, and 9. Yep.
And then gone to Ryan and gone to, I forget, Trevorrow, was it?
It was Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow for 9, and said, okay, you guys could do whatever you want in your film, but these points have to stay on point. You cannot deviate from these. You cannot deviate from these. You can do whatever the hell else you want. You want Canto Bite, do Canto Bite. You want bombers dropping on a dreadnought, do bombers dropping on a dreadnought. But this, and this has to go forward.
Well, no, and it wouldn't be that hard to do. You lay out your whole story, and you say, okay, well, these are the key points you have, and you drop them in where they go, and then you just fill in the blanks in between them. That would have been the way to go, instead of JJ and Kasdan sit down and write episode 7, Rian Johnson write episode 8, and now JJ wrote episode 9. So I'm personally, just me personally, I'm glad JJ's back for 9 because I was never a fan of Colin Trevorrow as a choice because I wasn't a big fan of the first Jurassic World. I didn't care for it that much. It didn't feel like Jurassic Park to me. You know what I mean? So because it was PG-13. How do you do a PG-13 movie with Death by Dino in it? You got to have rated R, right? And that's what I wanted going into it. You know, it was like it wasn't like, I know this is a Star Wars podcast, but give me just a second. Like, you know, you had the original Jurassic Park and you saw Samuel L. Jackson's arm like fall onto Laura Dern, right? And she like turned around and then freaked out, ran from the raptor. And then, you know, the rest of them were all, you see guys literally getting bit in half. And then Jurassic World comes along and they just family friendlied it. You know, you didn't see there wasn't a drop. I mean, you didn't see anybody lose anything. There was no, the closest you got to seeing Death by Dino was the shadow of Blue ripping a guy apart. That was as close as you got.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have a major gripe for The Last Jedi. I finally have one. I finally figured out what it is that bothers me the most. They broke Star Wars tradition. Starting from the original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker loses a hand. Attack of the Clones, Anakin Skywalker loses an arm. Nobody lost shit in The Last Jedi.
Snoke lost quite a bit.
Well, he got cut into 4 pieces, but I don't think that counts.
I think it counts because his hand was still on the armrest of the throne.
But he's dead.
So?
He's dead.
So Dooku lost his hands. Oh, okay. Can we talk about this horrible Star Wars pun for a second? Real quick, completely off topic. Dooku loses both hands before Anakin, or after Anakin beheads him. He tells Palpatine he was an unarmed prisoner. Can we talk about this for just a second? Can we talk about the brilliant writing in Revenge of the Sith for just a second?
Look, I'm fine with it because I'm.
And you want to tell me that Vader doesn't do puns? Screw you, man. Anakin was doing puns from the get-go.
No, I'm absolutely fine with it. But you know what? That joke does not bother me because you got to remember one of the greatest visual puns of all time was in Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. When Ash's hand gets possessed and he cuts his hand off and is still running around, he puts a bucket over it. Then he grabs a stack of books and puts it on top of the bucket so it won't move, right? What was the top book?
Farewell to Arms, yeah.
A Farewell to Arms.
Yep, that's what it was. But yeah, no,
So I'm fine with puns.
You want to talk about Vader's pun? Because a lot of people were pissed off that Vader did that pun in Rogue One about the choking on your aspirations.
Yeah.
So don't tell me Anakin never did puns. Anakin did puns. He was an unarmed prisoner. No shit, he was an unarmed prisoner. Anyway, I just completely off track there for a second. But anyway, but we've also got some casting news for Episode 9. We've got Greg Grunberg is returning, which a lot of people were kind of wondering where he was in Last Jedi. We know now from the Poe comics he was off on his own mission, but he's returning for Episode 9. Obviously with JJ directing, that's why. But, you know, you've read the Aftermath novels and you've seen Force Awakens and Last Jedi. Are you excited to see Greg Grunberg come back as Snap Wexley?
Nah.
It's just one of those things that doesn't really matter.
It's a background character in the movies.
He
had more to do in the Aftermath novels, and quite honestly, I could have lived without him in the Aftermath novels.
And he was a child in the Aftermath novels.
Mm-hmm. Give me Wedge.
I want Wedge. Well, speaking of returning characters, also we've got Billy D. Williams signed on for Episode 9. I know you did. I know you did
from day one.
Yep, I know you did. And the other thing about that story is let's just talk about the story for what it is. The cast list for Episode 9 was released, and on that cast list was Billy D. Williams reprising his role as Lando. But we also had the return of Mark Hamill, and everybody's like, "Oh wait, how can Mark Hamill come back? He's a He's a
Force
ghost. Like that's seriously what's either that or a flashback scene.
No,
a flashback we might get. I see both. I think we might get a flashback to what happened between Luke and Ben.
We might. You know what?
We might.
Ooh, flashback. We saw Luke's point of view where he got all crazy about, you know, and depressed and went off to drink green milk out of 6 titty creatures. And stabbing fish with a 50-foot pole. But we never really saw how he reconciled the destruction of his temple. Did he bury the younglings or anything of that nature? I think, and what do you think about this? he really goes full on dark side and murders the Knights of Ren, and that's why they're not around.
Oh my God. Okay, so you're talking about Luke going ahead and giving in and going on this rampage, and just, you took something from me, I'm going to take something from you.
Which is even more why he's
why
constantly
he went into
referring about
exile.
the hubris and the Jedi and everything else,
And why he hid himself away.
But here's the brilliant, and I'm gonna piss a lot of your listeners off right now.
Oh my God.
Here's the brilliance.
That's
of
okay.
Rian
They'll like
Johnson.
me more after this.
Here's the brilliance of Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson set up something that a lot of people bitched about
Ryan
in episode
Johnson.
8. Ryan, that's what I said. Ryan.
You said Brian Johnson.
Fuck you for having the same name close to it. Okay, B.
B.
But the genius of Rian Johnson is he set up something that had never been done in a Star Wars movie that a lot of people bitched about because, you can't just introduce new shit, blah, 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 blah. But people are going to lose their fucking shit because I guarantee you, even though he's a Force ghost, Luke will have more to do because Yoda showed that even a Force ghost can still use the Force.
Well, the Force Ghost is the Force.
Right, but being able to physically manifest things like lightning.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean,
that's a setup. That's a setup, and we're going to see Luke be doing some shit in episode 9.
Somebody asked me on a mailbag question back this past spring. I don't remember your name. I'm so sorry. I mean, I've done a lot of mailbag questions, but somebody asked if I thought Luke and Snoke. Thank you, dear. We're going to be doing, or we're going to be having a lightsaber battle in episode. Or no, I guess this was before episode 8 came out. Or no, it was after episode 8 came out, because somebody was asking me if I thought that the Force ghosts of Luke and Snoke were going to have a lightsaber battle in episode 9, and I'm like, what would be the point? like seriously, I would rather now. We don't know that dark side users can even have a spirit, right? Because in the EU they couldn't, but we haven't touched on that in the new canon yet. So, is it a possibility Snoke could come back as a Force ghost? Yeah, I mean, as of now, anything's possible. I would rather see those two come back as like a battle of wills.
That's what I was going to say.
You know what I mean? Of a battle for Force powers.
A battle for Kylo's soul.
Yeah, and from beyond the grave. Like that would really be some stuff to see. I mean, because I know we're getting off topic from Billy D, but we'll get there in a second. But I think in episode 9 you're going to see a lot of Force ghosts. I think we're going to see the return of Anakin. I think we are.
I hope we get the split Anakin though. That was
I do too.
The one where he's phasing between Anakin and Vader. Because he's never fully resolved that dark side. I hope we get that.
So when you say flickering, do you mean flickering between Hayden Christensen and the Vader mask, or between his face and like the burnt version of his face?
I wouldn't do the mask. I wouldn't, because
you do the burnt version of it.
I would do the burnt version.
That would be way more haunting.
Because the mask was just clothing. Yeah, it was his life support system and everything else, but it was just clothing. That's not the soul of the person.
Right. Well, and we know now also from Master and Apprentice, the short story, and from a certain point of view, as Qui-Gon is manifesting himself to Obi-Wan during A New Hope, it kind of goes through the process of how that they're manifested. And it's not what they actually looked like when they were alive, it's how they saw themselves. That's what the Force Ghost image is how they saw themselves, which explains why Anakin looked the way he did at the end of Return of the Jedi, right? So, yeah, I think it would that would be so cool to see Hayden Christensen come back as a Force Ghost of Anakin, but you see like the weird kind of like flash flickering of him back to like a burnt version of himself. You know what I mean? Like,
well, here's the question.
That would be so cool to see.
Here's a question. Besides seeing the flicker of the back and forth between light side and dark side Anakin, would you want almost like a dual personality from him?
No. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want a Vader Force Ghost and an Anakin Force Ghost. I'm not a fan of that. If they did it, I'd be like, oh, well, crap, they did it. Might as well move on. But this is me hoping to God they don't do that. I would rather see the flickering, because can you imagine sitting in the movie theater and you see the Force Ghost of Anakin come up? You'd already be freaking out. You'd be like, oh my God, he's back. And then all of a sudden you just see just a quick flicker, and you hear like a static sound, like of just a quick flashback to just a burnt, charred Anakin with a Sith eye just for a split second, and you're like, "Whoa, holy shit! Did that just happen?" Like, "Oh my god!"
You're talking almost like a ghost effect from like the movies like 13 Ghosts and stuff like that, where they kind of like
jerky and
yeah.
That would be hauntingly awesome, you know, and it would really add a layer to the Force ghosts that we don't have right now, that we've never had. You know, so I mean that would really, really be cool. But we
what about a Jacob Marley type scenario where Anakin comes back and he doesn't flicker, but he's chained to all the younglings he killed?
Oh my God, Master Skywalker, why do we have to go everywhere you go?
Can my present be a hug?
Oh God. But we've also got the return in Episode 9 of Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. I know you called that from the get-go when he started canceling some con appearances and stuff. How excited are you to see this smooth-talking smuggler again?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Now everybody's going to see why Donald Glover did not do that great of a job. Although I give him credit, he did a great job. But you're also going to understand why Lando had such a predominant role in Solo, a Star Wars story. It was set up for Billy D's return.
You think it was?
It was absolutely set up for Billy D. Let's remind people who Lando is before we bring Lando back. You know what I mean? And I don't think he's going to do much. I think he's going to have a Saw Gerrera type part, you know, in it, where it's just talk for a little bit and then die. I hate to say it that way.
Oh, God, no, don't say that. I can't take watching Lando go out.
Well, if he doesn't die, he'll go back to, like, the spice mining, or not spice mining, Tibetan gas mining.
The Tibetan gas. He actually left that behind after Return of the Jedi.
But who's to say he doesn't get it back eventually?
That's true, yeah.
You know,
don't say anything about Lando dying. I can't, because we already know. Look, we already know Leia's not going to make it through this film. I mean, we already know that's happening. I can't watch Leia and Lando go out at the same time. I hope
my
heart
Leia,
cannot take it.
I know people are gonna fucking shoot me for this right now too, but I hope Leia gets a Padme type send off. I don't mean she's lost the will to live. I don't mean that, but I mean give Leia the funeral. Luke did not have the funeral, but he had the peaceful passing. Han, we got nothing. You know, he just stupidly stood on the Star Wars bridge with no handrails and got stabbed by his son and gone. And, oh, well, Han Solo's gone. Who cares? Which was a crime in its own right. If I were to really yell at Rian Johnson for anything in Last Jedi, is the best. No recognition of the fact that the most beloved character in all of fiction. You know, but
well, we got it in the novel.
Yeah, true, but let Leia have the funeral. Let her die peacefully. I'm going to assume that 9 ends with the Resistance 1 and everything's hunky-dory in the galaxy again, and she peacefully passes away in the night. And they pay ultimate homage to the greatest leader of the Resistance / Republic.
Oh my God, I'm about to piss you off so bad. What if Episode 9 ends on a seriously dark note? Rey turns and she's the one that kills Leia.
It would piss me off, but I would fucking love it.
I just thought I'd ask, but
I would absolutely love it because it would be something I did not see coming. That would be the Luke, I am your father moment.
Well, we've also got a few more. I think this is the last of the news stories we were going to touch on. We've got.
Well, you didn't talk about the rest of the cast. Matt Smith, Kerry Russell.
That's what I'm. Yeah. We've still got a few more names to kind of talk about. We've got Matt Smith, who was just announced. Kerry Russell, who was announced a while back, and then Dominic Monaghan, that's cast for Episode 9. How are you feeling about these, man?
I was never a Doctor Who fan, so I can care less about Matt Smith. I really don't know.
You're talking to the doc in the blue box right here. You know that, right?
I know, and I still meant what I said. Kerry Russell, I really don't know who she is. I can't think of anything she's been in. Dominic Monaghan, quite honestly, I'm wondering when Star Wars became Lord of the Rings.
Well, I mean, you can have the crossover actors. It doesn't matter. I mean, who else?
Yeah, I know, but we have so many of them. We got Christopher Lee, who was, you know,
well, that's true.
Saruman,
he was Dooku, yeah, and Saruman.
And Dooku. Now you got him, and of course we had Snoke, a.k.a. Smeagol, a.k.a. Gollum. Like, we're just
Well, we also had Samuel L. Jackson, who was in Jurassic Park. We had Laura Dern, who was in Jurassic Park. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been in these films that have crossed over with, have been in other films with other people. But
look, once Daniel Radcliffe and a surprise cameo appearance from the late great Alan Rickman show up, and we got Harry Potter in there too.
Hey, you know what? You never know, man. You never know. For me,
I'm fine with it. It just depends on what their
great.
roles are. It depends. It depends to me. Like, are they going to have predominant roles, or are they going to be the JJ special where it's Daniel Craig in a stormtrooper outfit?
Well, I think Matt Smith's going to have a pretty a prominent role. I think that was kind of put out there. Kerry Russell, I'm not so sure what her role is going to be. I know a lot of people are talking about her being Rey's mother, but remember when everybody thought Laura Dern was going to be Rey's mother? And then you've got Dominic Monaghan, which I see him being First Order.
Well, how old is Dominic?
I don't know. Let me look real quick.
And how old is Carrie?
Why?
Because what if Carrie is Mara Jade and Dominic turns out to be the
Luke
Luke child?
I knew you were gonna go there.
Look, people have been fucking bitching for it. Mara Jade has to exist. Even if they don't get it the exact way they wanted it, Mara Jade's got to exist.
Oh, well, Dominic is 41.
That may or may not fit. I mean, it fits with Luke, Mark Hamill, but...
And Kerry Russell's 42.
Yeah, that don't fit.
So, yeah.
Solo twins. Nope.
Oh, God, don't say that. No, I can't. Oh, God. I could already hear EU fans losing their minds. Like, I sensed a great disturbance in the force.
It's Jason and Jancia.
Oh my God, Jaina. Oh Jesus Christ. But that's gonna wrap it up for news. That we had a lot to cover. We've been going for about it. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, aren't we? We still got a little bit to talk about. We've got some upcoming canon material that I'm stupid excited for. But let's just go through these bit by bit. We'll start at the bottom, which of the show notes I gave you, Chris, and we're just gonna get the one you're gonna hate the most out of the way. Coming up this week on September 5th, we've got Dr. Aphra Annual number 2, and we've got Star Wars issue 53. I know you're reading the comics, Chris, and I know you're not a fan of Dr. Aphra. Has any of the more recent comics that you've read changed your mind at all?
I am super excited for Star Wars number 53. I can give a shit less about Dr. Aphra.
What is it about Aphra you don't like so much?
I've already stated it numerous times. It's not that I hate the character. I think it's a really decently realized character, but to me, it is a comic book character in the Star Wars universe. She just does not fit in the Star Wars universe.
I think what the idea behind her was, because she was actually all right in the Vader run, the first Vader run. She was actually, I'm assuming you liked her in Vader.
Well, yeah, because she was a supporting character. She wasn't the main focus. Giving her own comic book, and she has almost these like slapstick adventures in a sense.
Well, I think what the driving force behind her originally was, they really started introducing a lot of ancient stuff with her, like the ancient Jedi Order, which I can't remember what they were called right now, but she found artifacts that had to do with them, and she's an archaeologist. I think what their idea for her was to kind of start dipping their toes into the waters of Old Republic and kind of start seeing if people were interested in some of the stuff that might have been going on, because they've introduced some new stuff, some ancient orders that were never in the EU. So I think that might have been what the driving purpose behind her was. I know you're not a fan of it. I don't mind it. I just, you're right. She was really good in Vader, but with her own run, it's starting to get to where it's just another misadventure. Eventually her luck's going to run out, but it's one of those comics to me at this point where I'm not like looking forward to it every issue like I used to. Now it's just like, oh, well, I'm going to read this and get caught up. Like that's what it's coming to.
Well, see, I think one of the biggest things that pisses me off, besides the fact that because a lot of what you're saying is absolutely true. There are some interesting backstories coming into her comics with the Old Republic stuff, as you called it. Of course, there's been some great characters like 000 and all that. But what bothers me the most about her, besides the fact that she doesn't really fit into the Star Wars universe, her character just feels so off to everything, is the way they try to cram her into everything. She's crammed into Han's backstory. She's tied in with Luke's story. She's tied in with Leia's story. No, she's not. You know,
she was
You're
they
just
even
kind
had
of forcing her there.
She even had her own story, and from a certain point of view. She was on Dantooine when the Imperial Scouts got there to look for the rebel base Leia told Tarkin about. You know, they thought she was one of the rebels, you know, so she was there also, but I don't mind the character that much. Star Wars 53, I'm loving this new run right now because it's essentially the Empire kind of beginning their strike back after the Death Star. You know, the Rebel Alliance has built their fleet of Mon Cala ships. You know, and now the Empire is trying to show them, well, you could build a fleet, but you can't have it for very long, you know. So, I mean, even the story arc title is Hope Dies, you know. So it's a great run so far. I'm absolutely loving the crap out of it, but I'm really, really excited for the next bit. Speaking of comics, the next issue of Poe Dameron I think it's going to be issue number 31, is going to be the last issue of Poe Dameron. It's been an ongoing series for a few years now, and they're going to be ending it at issue 31. What did you ever think about the Poe Dameron series? Because I don't think you've never read Poe Dameron at all.
Nope, never read it. Jen's read it. I haven't read it. The only thing I could say about it, I heard good things about it. I know I got to sit down and read it, but I had so much on my plate. I just didn't want another run on my plate. And quite honestly, when it comes to Star Wars, I'm more interested in the Jedi and the Sith than I am the non-Force using characters. That doesn't mean I don't care about the non-Force using characters, but I'm more interested in the Jedi and Sith struggle than I am anything else. That being said, though, the biggest thing that stands out to me is it's so weird they're ending it on such an odd number.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I guess it's going to be the 6th part of that particular story arc, because issue 30 was number 5. But I think they're going to be ending. You're right. It is kind of a weird number to be to ending it on, because they told me that at the comic shop, and I'm just like, wait, what? Really? So it makes me wonder what they're going to replace it with.
Well, that's why I don't understand why 31 wouldn't be part 6, and then you do a 3-part to finish it, and then you got or a 4-part to finish it, and there's 35, and that makes more sense. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, see, right now though, the Poe Dameron comic is post Last Jedi. So you can only go so far beyond that before you start getting into territory where, well, you look, maybe JJ wrote his script and came back and said, oh, no, you can't have that going. We got to end that like ASAP.
Right.
You know, maybe that happened. I don't know the whole story, but I mean, we'll know once 9 comes out. If 9 picks up immediately where 8 left off, that's going to kind of put a kink in some plans, but
I don't think it's going to pick up where 8 left off.
I don't either. There's going to be a time jump there. I mean, the only reason they even started 8 right where 7 left off was because of the way 7 ended. You know, that's because of the way JJ ended it. That was the only reason. But Poe Dameron, for me, it was a good run. There were some standout moments in there that I really have enjoyed. The first 3 issues were really rocky. I really didn't care for them that much. But however, we did get the return of Mr. Bones from Aftermath. He was in that comic, so because I think Wexley was, or Snap Wexley was talking to him, to Poe, and he's like, I'm going to send you a droid AI, and Poe's like, you carry a droid AI with you? And he's like, yeah, just trust me, just put it in the droid. And so he did, and he jumped down. He's like, it's the return of Mr. Bones, and he just started slaughtering everybody. And it was glorious.
I honestly think that Mr. Bones is my second favorite droid in Star Wars, whether EU or current canon, next to HK-47.
I believe he is the canon equivalent of HK-47, because even in one of the Aftermath,
he's a little wackier. I mean,
yeah. Well,
I think I would put him with HK if he ever finally turned around and uttered the phrase "meatbag."
He did. That's what I'm getting at. He did in one of the Aftermath novels, because he was,
you're right, he did,
damaged or something, and he turned around and he went, "Query," and he says something about the meat bag. Can I slaughter the meat bag now, Master? And I was just like, no way. So he did, though. He did use the word meat bag. I think it was at Empire's End. But yeah, that did happen. So I think he's the canon version of what HK-47 was supposed to be, which I love. But there was a couple other things that happened in Poe Dameron too. That I mean, there was one moment in particular I can think of that every time I think about it, I laugh. But no, it's Poe and 3PO on a kind of like a smuggler's moon, and 3PO's got this network of spies of droid spies that he's in charge of, and he says something to Poe about, wouldn't it be nice if, Master, or if General Solo were here, he would know what to do, but he borrowed all that money from the Guavian Death Gang to fund his last endeavor. And in the background, you see the Kanji Club leaders, and they're spitting out drinks, and they're like, what did that droid say? And you see them get up and walk away. That's how they found out. So even though Han was nowhere near 3PO, 3PO was still screwing him from halfway across the galaxy. So, and they get up and you can see them leaving as they're going their own way. But yeah, 3PO says ever since he borrowed that money from Kanji Club, or from Guavian Death Gang, and the Kanji Club's like, what that? He spits his drink. I was like, what'd that droid just say? So I laugh every time I think about it.
Tell that to Kanji Club.
Tell that to Kanji Club. But I had to put my comic down and laugh my ass off while I was reading that because it was absolutely great.
Fucking goldenrod.
It's so awesome. It's sad to see the Poe Dameron comic go. I'm excited to see what's going to take its place, but anyway. But I think that does it for comics for right now. This coming week, we've got the novelization of Solo, a Star Wars story. It's going to be an expanded edition, just like Last Jedi was. Some extra scenes in there. I know you weren't a big fan of the Solo film. Are you going to pick up the novel?
It's growing on me.
Is it?
It's growing on me. I still hate L7.
Oh, L337.
L337, yeah. I still hate that. I think that character needs to not exist. I hate that character more than Jar Jar Binks. I hate that character more than Rose Tico. I hate that character worse than Rose Tico and Jar Jar Binks' baby. Okay, I hate that fucking character. Everything about that character I despise. But as long as they don't extend her character in the book, I'm looking forward to reading the book.
Oh, I can almost promise you they're going to. Look, and we're going to talk about this here in a little bit too, as under the new canon headline, but you really don't want to read the new Lando comic then if you really didn't like L337, because she's in it a lot. And the Double or Nothing, yeah, I know you can't, but it's just she had a couple of moments that I couldn't help but laugh, and I know it's one of the moments you didn't like. It was when she was trying to cut the gate open. She's like, "Don't look, I can't do it while you're not looking," and I actually laughed at that point. But especially from where the saw came out. But anyway, she had the body of an astromech.
I not to sound misogynist here or anything like that, but I think if it was a male voice character, it'd be funnier. Because to me, that scene, if it was a male character, would be kind of like the whizzing on the electric fence.
Like, don't look, I can't. Yeah. See, that one, it would have worked better there, but, I just... And every time we play Battlefront and I'm stealing your kills and we're on Kessel, every time I see the droids in the command center, all I can think of is, I don't know, go free your brothers and sisters or something. That's all I can think of.
I giggled at.
I don't know, go free your brothers and sisters or something. I don't know. Yeah. But no, we're going to have some extra scenes. I know one of them they've already kind of alluded to and gave us a look at, and it's Han being kind of summoned before, I guess, a military court for the Empire. So I'm really excited to see the novelization for Solo, and like I've only seen the film once, I haven't seen it anymore since then. So we've got the Blu-ray coming out later next month. I guess by the time this releases, it'll be later this month. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really need to finish Thrawn Alliances so that I can pick up Solo. But we've got a few new novels also. We'll start with the Pablo Hidalgo book first. They announced that he is doing a book. I don't think it's going to be a novel. I think it's going to be more of a kind
behind
of
the scenes.
Yeah, like a reference kind of thing, focusing on the scum and villainy of a galaxy far, far away. So usually anything with Pablo, it's going to be behind the scenes reference material. You know what I mean? So is this something you're interested in? Are you interested to know any more about the scum and villainy?
Sure. I mean, I know from watching the Star Wars show earlier today that Pablo's like going around and delving deep into the specs of like certain vehicles and stuff like that were used like in Solo, a Star Wars story, mostly for the research of his book. So I know we're going to get a lot more technical into things which are going to be canon technical. So, I mean, of course I'm interested in knowing how things work within this universe now. But I mean, is it something I'm going to rush right out and buy? No.
Right, same here. Because I mean, even here at the Canon Library, I don't really focus a whole lot on reference material. I think somebody asked me about that not too long ago too. I don't really focus on reference material. I have flipped through some of the reference books, at the store, but I haven't really purchased any of them. I probably need to go back and get them though, and just keep them as reference, at the end of the Canon shelf or something. But yeah, I'll pick it up. I'll look through it, maybe learn a thing or two. Because, I mean, some of the stuff from Last Jedi you learned from the reference book, like the ring that Poe Dameron has on a chain around his neck is the wedding ring his mother gave him to save for the right girl, Why would they put that in a reference book if he's not going to give it to somebody somewhere down the road? He's going to give it to Rey. I guarantee somewhere down the road, he's going to give it to Rey. But anyway.
Of course.
But speaking of new
novels. And
novels.
then she turns dark side and kills him.
Yeah, but I love you. But, and then she should be like, I know, and off with his head.
And then it turns out she's a Solo.
Yeah, right. That's ironic.
Oh, I can hear the Twitterverse now. Oh my
geez.
God.
Yeah, you and me both.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, because then they're gonna be like, oh God, Kylo was looking at his sister, going, I could take what I want,
Okay, I know these movies mirror themselves, but let's not mirror the whole. Let's
don't do the brother and sister thing again. No, that's something that we spent. Look. Us Star Wars fans spent years trying to make the Trekkies forget about that, and we finally did it. So don't bring it back up. But we've got a couple of new novels coming out too, both of which I'm extremely excited for. The first one by E.K. Johnston called Queen's Shadow, which takes place between episodes 1 and 2, and it's going to be a Padme story of her stepping down as queen and the new queen asking her to stay on as senator.
And Milo, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be her. It's essentially Padme learning about politics, because she didn't know a whole lot about politics in episode 1 when she was queen. After that's when she really delved into it and started learning the ins and outs and how things work and how the Republic really worked and stuff. So I see this being a political thriller, to be honest.
I hope it is, because right now the way you just described it to me, my first thought was. As if taxation wasn't hard enough on Phantom Menace.
War.
Yeah. No. Obviously, I'm gonna read it. I know E.K. Johnston. I've read some books before.
She wrote Ahsoka.
Yeah, stuff. Well, not just Ahsoka, but I mean like non-Star Wars books that were really good. So one could hope. But I'm more excited about the next one.
Oh, yeah, the next one. Well, I mean, anything by Claudia Gray. And we've got another Claudia Gray novel coming out called Master and Apprentice. It's going to be an Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn story, pre-Phantom Menace, dude. We are getting more pre-Phantom Menace. And I think the only reason she got this novel was because of her short story and from a certain point of view called Master and Apprentice. And that was the story I referred to earlier where Qui-Gon kind of came back as a Force ghost to Obi-Wan. So, are you ready to see some more Qui-Gon?
I'm hoping we got a really young Obi-Wan that's almost as annoying as the Jake Lloyd Anakin. I really want to see the out of control Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon
sneaking out at night
and Qui-Gon, trying to tie this boy down. You know what I mean?
It would add so much to the story, to Obi-Wan's character, especially considering the way Anakin acted in episode 2 around him. When Anakin jumps out of the speeder and he's like, excuse me, and he's over the edge, and Obi-Wan's like, I hate it when he does that. Like, if you see Obi-Wan doing the same stuff to Qui-Gon, that's going to be absolutely great to see. I didn't think of that.
And it would really add dynamics to Obi-Wan's character on why he hates this stuff so much is because he used to do it, and then the punishments or atonements that Qui-Gon would make him do, which broke his rebellious streak, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? So yeah, give me a younger, out of control Obi-Wan.
and show me why he doesn't like flying.
Yeah.
Show me. I want to know why Obi-Wan does not like flying.
Yeah, because the asteroid field with the seismic charges that wouldn't be reason enough.
Well, he was already saying, "Blast! This is why I hate flying." So obviously that happens somewhere else. I want to know, but I want to see some more Qui-Gon. And you know who I'd really like to see make an appearance in that novel? Count Dooku.
I really hope we. You know what?
Qui-Gon was his apprentice.
Yeah, and as much as I'm excited to see Qui-Gon, being the master of Obi-Wan and really delving into that dynamic, I would really love to see a young Qui-Gon being tutored by Dooku.
Oh, Jesus, that'd be so free. And, we might get something like that, too, I mean, just seeing Dooku as a Jedi at all would be so cool.
You know what I hope actually happens in this book? I'm assuming that Qui-Gon already reached knight status, and took on Obi-Wan as an apprentice before Dooku's turn. I would love to see...
Oh, he did. Dooku didn't turn until after Episode 1.
That's what I'm saying. I would love to see... actually, did he turn at Episode 1, or did he turn...
No, he
turned during Episode 1.
No, he explained during Episode 2 that after the whole thing with Naboo, he was telling Obi-Wan. After that, Sidious came to him and told him what was going on after he'd lost Maul. Okay. So that's when he came to Dooku.
That would kill it then, because what I was really hoping to see was like really a dynamic of how Qui-Gon reacted to the news of.
Oh yeah, that would be something. Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, he may not have turned yet, but he was still part of the Lost Jedi. He'd left the temple, so we could still have that dynamic.
Yeah, we still could. Yeah, that's true.
Because he was part of the Lost 12?
Lost 20.
Or Lost 20, yeah.
The Lost 20, yeah.
So he was one of the Lost 20.
I guess we could chalk that up to 21 now. Thanks, Anakin.
Yeah,
That's why we can't have nice things. Now,
literally.
Now we got to build another pillar in the Jedi archives just to put your freaking statue in front of. Great, thanks. Just couldn't leave it, could you?
I'm sure Jocasta Nu would absolutely love it, especially after what happened in the fucking Vader comic.
If she's as OCD as I am, yeah, that would drive me crazy.
Spoiler!
Oh, yeah. The gun that shot lightsaber blades, how freaking cool was that? Anyway.
No, not that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Telling everybody. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You talk about a laugh out loud moment.
We'll talk about that here in a minute, because I want to talk about this new Vader run here in a few minutes. But anything by Claudia Gray is just gold. I mean, not to get graphic, you could take a dump in her hands and she'll touch it and it'll turn to gold. Like, she knows what she's doing, like she gets it. She gets Leia. We know that now from the Leia novel and from Bloodline. She gets Star Wars. We know that from Lost Stars. And we know she gets Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's relationship because we know that from Master and Apprentice, the short story. So I'm over the moon. Cannot wait. This is going to be one I pick up day 1 and finish it day 2. Like, I'm so excited.
Look, I'll put it to you this way, and I'm not as big on Lost Stars as a lot of people are. I liked the book. I really did like the book. I didn't like it as much as everybody's like, it's the best of the new canon. I still say Lords of the Sith is the best of the canon. But I will give Claudia Gray her due. I think Claudia Gray is the Padawan to the one author who is the true master of canon and Star Wars. And that's Timothy Zahn.
Mm-hmm. He's up there, man. And
he's not up there. He is still the master of Star Wars.
Before he wrote the first Thrawn novel, before he announced that, I was calling Claudia Gray the Timothy Zahn of the new canon. If that gives you any idea of where I put him on a pedestal. You know what I mean? And now with these 2 Thrawn novels, obviously he's the Timothy Zahn of the new canon. But
I will give one complaint to Timothy Zahn. I will give one complaint with the new canon. I want to see him step away from Thrawn. I want to see a Timothy Zahn Star Wars novel that has nothing to do
other
with
than Thrawn. Yeah, I agree with you. That is something I'd really like to see.
Love the character, but I want to see him expand.
And I'm gonna go as far as to say this, and you could agree with me, disagree with me. I see Zahn as the king of Star Wars expanded universe material, and I see Claudia Gray as the queen.
That's fair enough.
That's the way I see it. So,
and the Dark Emperor is Dave Filoni.
yes, good, yeah. So,
with his little cowboy hat on instead of the cow. Good.
So we've got a lot of new canon to look forward to coming out here before long, and here at the Standard Star Wars Canon Podcast, we'll keep you guys up to date on. Every week on the new stuff coming out each week. I know next week we're going to be talking about some new stuff, but let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the new canon that's come out before we finish up. We've got 3 novels to talk about and a couple of comics that I know you haven't read yet.
Actually, looking at your reviews list, I got nothing to say about any of them except one, and one of them I'm not finished yet.
Oh, fair enough. Well, so I wanted to do official reviews for a few of the novels because of the break that the Canon Library went on. So I've got Last Shot, Most Wanted, and I was going to do Throne Alliances, but I haven't finished it yet. Last
That's the
shot
one I could talk about.
Yeah, I know that's the one that you've started. So I'll just start with Last Shot real quick. Last Shot was a Han Solo Lando novel that came out around the same time as Solo: A Star Wars Story. So it kind of focused on the young Han and the young Lando, as well as what you would call present day Han and Lando also, which is, I think, like 3 years after Return of the Jedi. It's after the Aftermath trilogy. But the book bounces back and forth between, it's essentially all one story, but it spans such a giant time period that it bounces back and forth between the time periods because each character dealt with it at a different time. And then on present day, they're both coming together to deal with it together again. But the book was, for me personally, it was rough to get through at best. And it's not because of the villain or the story. The story was good. The villain was absolutely phenomenal. The villain was a Utapauan named Fyzen Gore, who was kind of the Dr. Frankenstein of the Star Wars universe. He was doing droid organic creature hybrid creatures, like there was like Grievous. Well, I mean, but more Frankensteinish. There were half Wookiee, half droids, like droids with Wookiee arms and stuff like that. Right. So there was stuff like that, but it was absolutely great villain. Absolutely. I mean, terrifying too, to a degree. And the only problem I really had with the book, it wasn't really interesting. And they used the word ass or some form of ass in the book way too often. When in Star Wars have you ever heard Han or Lando say, "I just saved your ass. Thanks for saving our asses"? Like when have you ever heard that?
No, you're right. And I kind of had the same issue with Poe Dameron in The Last Jedi. I think he was a little too flippant with vernaculars that we use.
With the big ass door and the hell, like stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we heard Han Solo in Empire say, "Then I'll see you in hell," and stuff like that. But it's, and real quick, just completely off topic because this just came to me. All these people that are upset because in Last Jedi they use the term Godspeed.
I'm one of those people, not because I'm anti-God or anything else. I just don't understand why the phrase Godspeed would be used in a setting where God is the Force. Why not Force speed?
But why not have a problem then with Han Solo saying, "Then I'll see you in hell"?
Because people refer to hell not just as a biblical term, but a place of when all hell breaks loose, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
But Godspeed isn't spelled with a big G; it's a little G. Godspeed. That's all it is.
But it still breaks down to the fact of God fill your sails, Godspeed, Well,
you can't say force sail or force speed because, that's a force power in Jedi Outcast. You can't say that. But,
Jedi Outcast is canon, so you could say it all you want.
But then in Return of the Jedi, you've got the Ewoks who are worshiping 3PO, and he says, "I believe they think I'm some sort of god."
Some sort of god.
Of God, little g. Yeah, same thing with Godspeed. It's a little g. It's not saying there is a God or the God. It's just saying Godspeed. It's just a phrase.
Look, it's a nitpick thing. It's just, for me, it felt out of place. Now, for other people that have like the religious battle with it or whatever else, shut up. It's a fantasy show. To me, it just felt out of place to what they have set up for so many movies and so many books. In being that there's no such thing as these types of deities except for by primitive cultures, and primitive cultures worship deities and stuff like that, like 3PO. But in reality, the whole entire thing is what we in real life would consider a god or deity is in Star Wars considers the Force.
Right. Well, see, even the word goodbye has the vernacular of God, because goodbye literally means it's a shortened version of "God be with you" is what they used to say when you were going outside the city walls out into the wilderness. That's what goodbye means. It's "God be with you." But anyway, it's something I kind of went off on a tangent real quick. But some of the language used in Last Shot, and it wasn't even just the characters that said it. It was the narration also said it a couple times. I mean, yeah, we've got the word crap as canon now. We've had characters say the word crap in Star Wars now. That's canon. Am I a fan of it? No, but the book was just hard to follow also. I mean, considering it jumped around every chapter, and the story was so, what's the word? Forgettable between each chapter, that whenever you came back to, say, 15 years ago when Lando had the Falcon, you had to go back to the end of the last chapter that took place in that time period to remind yourself of what happened before you go on with the next chapter. It was one that I struggled with. And I know, it's one of those things that I know Richard J had a hard time with it too. And I think he actually ended up giving up on it, but anyway, that's my review of Last Shot. It was an all right novel. It's not, I mean, it's pretty low on my list right now. It's not as low as the next one I'm going to talk about, but, Last Shot, it's down there a little ways. I need to do a new rankings video. I'm going to say probably fourth from the bottom.
Well, we know what the bottom
personally.
is.
And we know what the bottom one is, yeah. And now you're about to know what the bottom two are. Because this next one that I'm getting ready to talk about, Most Wanted. This is a book that I heard high praise for going into it. And it's not written by Del Rey. It's a Lucasfilm Press novel. And it was actually written by Ray Carson. And the first like third of the book was actually really interesting. I really liked it. But then it just got to a point where I wanted it to end. I wanted it to end so bad. I was like, oh my God, I have 4 pages of this left. Are you kidding me? I'm never going to make it. Like it was so hard to get through. And it introduced a character, and it was just a supporting character. You didn't see him a whole lot, but now Star Wars has its own Gollum character too. And I don't remember what his name was. But it was a friend, a quote unquote acquaintance, I guess you could say, of Han on, Corellia, hiding in a crack in the wall. And he was eating rats, and he lived in the crack. He had slits for eyes, and he always friend. He didn't talk normal. He was crawling, and all I could picture was Gollum. So that's. I mean, we got a character like that, but the story itself, I don't know. It didn't really focus on Han the way I wanted it to. It kind of like Han gets off planet for the first time in his life in the book, and then they have to go back to Corellia, which we know where Solo picks up. But it kind of, at the beginning of the book, Han and Kira hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. And by the end of the book, you kind of see how they've gotten close enough to where they are at the beginning of Solo, where they're trying to get off planet together. But it's just a hard read to get through.
See, that really disappoints me. Because one of the things I was really interested in both Last Shot and Most Wanted, I can care less about the Lando-Han dynamic. I already got that from the movies. You know what I mean? But I really wanted to see more of the dynamic of Kira and Han and really delve into that relationship to the point where it makes sense where Han, like Kira was the love of Han's life before Leia. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to see that happen. And if you're telling me these books suck so much that I'm really not going to get that,
Well, you get them. They throughout the book they're on this mission, which is like 2 days by the way, the whole story is like 2 days. And at the beginning of it, she hates it because it's Kira, Han, and then 2 other characters that are up to be chosen by the leader, I can't think of it, Proxima something, to be chosen for a head, like leader of all the other children, right? And they're kind of, they see each other as competitors at this point. And what happens is, Lady Proxima, that's her name. Lady Proxima sends Han and Kira on a mission, on 2 separate missions, which actually are the same mission, but they don't realize it. And the mission goes awry, and they escape, and then they find out their missions were together at the same thing, and they run off together, and they become fugitives, which is where the title Most Wanted comes from. And everybody's looking for them. The Empire, the Droid Gatra, Proxima's people are looking for it. And everybody, because of what they have this one, I'm not going to say what it is, it'll ruin it, but they have something that everybody is after. And it's just them running the whole time and trying to figure out a way to clear their names because they've got all these groups after them, right? And they want to kill them. And it's throughout the whole thing, it's over the course of 2 days. If it was over the course of, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even a month, I could kind of see Kira maybe falling for him a little bit like that. Because it never flat out says that they love each other or have feelings for each other. It just, they become very, very close friends. That's the word they use. They finally use the word friends for the first time around each other. But that's the reason they're so close is because of what happens in this novel, and it's not a necessary story. I know a lot of people argue that Solo itself wasn't a necessary story, but this is just not a necessary story.
It's not even necessary to Solo.
Right. No, it's not.
Right. Okay. So that actually just barely squeaks by Heir to the Empire or Heir to the Jedi.
Heir to the Jedi. Right now, my bottom 4 are Heir to the Jedi, Most Wanted, because nothing will ever be as bad as Heir to the Jedi. I'm not. You could just give me a Star Wars novel with like used toilet paper throughout the whole thing, and it's still going to be above Heir to the Jedi.
Gungan Ewok War.
No, still above Heir to the Jedi. But no, it's going to go Heir to the Jedi, Most Wanted, and then I'm going to put...
And the victor of that war is the Porgs.
Yeah. And then I'm going to put Last Shot and then Aftermath, the first Aftermath. If that gives you any idea of where I'm placing those at. But
I'm actually surprised at how low Aftermath is, but okay, go on.
Well, fair enough. And then the other thing we were going to talk about Thrawn Alliances, which we haven't finished yet, but so far loving it. I'm like halfway through it. The only reason I haven't finished it is because of work. But I'm going to be finishing it up here before long. And then I was going to talk about the Beckett one-shot comic, which I haven't had a chance to read yet. But I wanted to talk to you, Chris, a little bit about this Lando Double or Nothing series.
Well, as you just told me, I'm not going to want to read it because of L337.
I know you haven't read it yet, and I know you're not probably going to read it after this. But it's a 5-issue run. I was looking forward to the new Lando comic because I love the first Lando comic. I absolutely loved it because we even got some Sith lore, in the first Lando comic. And I was kind of expecting something like this out of this one, but I haven't even finished this series yet. I think there's still 1 or 2 more issues coming out, and I just don't care. It's almost as bad as when the Chewbacca comic was coming out for me. Like, it's just bad.
Is it because the story's not good, or because of the fact that like they're pushing the politics of things like L337?
Oh, both. Easily both. Because they do the whole pushing of the droid rights thing a lot more in this comic. It was because basically that's all that droid was. Yeah, that's all she cared about. You know what I mean? She was a droid patriot, But it's... I come to realize I don't care about this iteration of Lando. I don't care about Lando at this point in his life. It's before the film. It's before Solo, so he still has the Falcon. And this woman hires him to help rescue her father from a mining planet. No, it's not Kessel. But it's just I don't care. Like Lando's referring to himself in third person all the time, and it's just
he's just a little over the top arrogant, huh?
Yeah, no, it's not Lando to me. I don't. Well, see, I don't care.
That was part of my problem. Like the way he talked and his mannerisms that Donald Glover did as Lando in Solo, I thought were pretty spot on, which is something that the trailers did not portray well. But that's exactly my problem with Lando in Solo, was that Lando is suave. In Solo, he was just arrogant.
Yep.
And that they're not the same. Forget what those modern rap albums tell you. Arrogance is not suaveness.
Arrogance is different than confidence. Mm-hmm. That's 2 completely different things, and it's just... That's what it is. He's arrogant, He, like, at one point, I think he even said, "How dare you touch me?" or something like that, or "How dare you touch the best smuggler in the galaxy?" or something like that. He's got a gun to his head, and he's being this way, Like, it's just, I don't care. That's the only thing I can say about this new Lando series is I don't care. It could end before the series is done. I don't care.
Yeah, you're really not selling this to me at all.
No, I'm not. I don't give a crap about it, but But I think it's, like I said, I think it has to do with just that iteration of Lando, because I didn't care really for the parts of Last Shot either of that part of Lando, because he wasn't that arrogant in Last Shot. It was arrogant, but he wasn't that arrogant. You know what I mean? So it's like he went from, which the stuff in Last Shot happens before this comic. So it's like he went from being like kind of suave arrogant to arrogant out the ass, and then later on what we saw in Empire and Jedi. So I just can't.
Well, see that's one of the things from the Solo movie and what you're describing to me in the last shots and the Lando Double or Nothing that I think really disappointed me the most was I really wanted the friendship dynamic between Lando and Han. That's what I wanted to explore, and there was nothing. Even the way Lando exited in Solo, a Star Wars story, he exited with "You owe me a ship." That was it. Where did all of a sudden they became buddies and had these funny little stories with each other and blah blah blah? Where's that dynamic? That's what I wanted to see. I didn't want to see the first meeting where they hated each other.
Yeah. Well, like in Empire, whenever they're going to Cloud City and he's like, I'm trying to reach Lando Calrissian, and they fire on him, and he's like, and she, Chewie says something. He's like, well, that was a long time ago. I'm sure he's forgotten about that by now. Like, what the hell was he talking about?
Well, I think that's
surely
what
it wasn't the Sabat game.
I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was the fact that Han probably still owes him that ship.
He doesn't owe him anything.
Yeah,
he doesn't. I mean, Lando, because I always assumed, and because even in the Aftermath, was it the Aftermath series? They referenced a little bit about Han getting the ship from Lando. And they didn't go into detail about it, but essentially what I gathered from it was they both cheated. It was just Han cheated better, and when you come down to it, Han won it fair and square. He really did. He kept Lando from cheating. You know what I mean? He won with a shit hand, but he won nonetheless. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why
that
when
was
he showed
another
the cards
thing that
to
really
Chewie,
bugged me.
That was why when he showed the cards to Chewie, you see Chewie go and just kind of look down like, oh God, like.
That was another thing that really bugged me, was during both Sabat games, Lando's got that little fucking card flick in his sleeve. Really, I don't see Lando is Lando greaseball? Of course, he's always been greaseball, but I don't see him being a flat out cheater.
Well, yeah, because they talk about in Empire, he's like, well, I'm respectable now, like he really changed. Because
was he seedy? Was he seedy?
Run,
yes, but was he? Would he straight out cheat as a gambler?
No,
not at all.
No, but I mean, even in the first Lando run, he wasn't like that. I mean, he wasn't even arrogant. He wasn't even confident. He wasn't even suave. You know what I mean? He was just in the situation and. It was a fight or flight, so. He
was still General Calrissian at that point.
Well, no, he wasn't even General. This is before Empire.
I mean, mindset-wise. And
oh, yeah. But, well, I mean, even in the one thing that Last Shot does, I'll go back to that for a second. The present day stuff, it does kind of settle Lando down. There's one character, I can't recall her name, but she's a Twi'lek, and he realizes during the novel that she's the love of his life. And that she wasn't sure what version of Lando she was getting every time she sees him, but they finally settled Lando down in this novel.
That's fair enough.
So I'll say that much, but anyway, yeah, that's I just wanted to kind of touch on the Lando series a little bit. Not a big fan of it. I know you're not going to be a big fan of it, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, don't waste your money.
Cool.
Personally, because I know you, so.
Yeah.
But I think. We're well over the hour and a half mark. I think that's going to wrap it up for this return episode of Star Wars Canon Podcast. So, Chris, how's it feel to be back?
Oh, it feels good to be back. I almost feel like I'm nice and cozy, warm inside a Tauntaun.
So you're just lukewarm. Okay.
And I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Oh, yeah. So, Chris, why don't you tell the fine folks where they can find you at, brother?
Well, first and foremost, you can find me at the Patreon page for Realm of the Mist Entertainment. Look it up. Send a donation, man. $1 will do you. Give you all the early access to all the Realm of the Mist content, as well as upcoming exclusive to Patreon-only content coming soon in the next couple months, actually. Also, guys, you can find me every Tuesday rocking it out with the Cockroach Cockpit for Order 69, where we're putting the balls back into balls. I don't know. I had nothing for that. But come join us. Come join us on Twitch TV/Cockroach Cockpit or Twitch TV/Wild High. Or excuse me. No. I switched it over. That's right. Twitch.tv/Realm the Mist Entertain. And, of course, you can find me at realmofthemist.com and all its subsidiaries. And, of course, YouTube, realmofthemist.com. Or Realm of the Mist. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, man, that's a lot, man. You're everywhere. And you guys can find me right here at the Star Wars Canon Library YouTube channel. Make sure to go check out the Facebook page as well. Every month I will be putting out the schedule for the last Friday of the month. I changed it from Saturdays to Fridays. From the last Friday of every month, we're going to be doing live Q&As. We just did one last night. We had actually, I can't say that because it's going to be tomorrow night. But by the time this comes out, it'll have been, I think, last night. But anyway, make sure to go check out the Facebook page so you don't miss one of those. Make sure to check out StarWarsCanonLibrary.com for the entire timeline of canon material, cover art for everything, and even a chronological list of Clone Wars episodes, which we're going to be talking a lot more about Clone Wars here in the future. But yeah, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe right here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Star Wars Canon Podcast. Make sure to visit the Patreon page if you're interested in the after shows or the Jedi issues or any of the spoiler reviews. Make sure to go check that out. All of the links will be in the description below.
Oh, one more thing. Tuesdays on twitch.tv/Realm of the Myths Entertained. Join Brian Miller and myself as we do Breaking the Fourth Wall live on Twitch. You could actually join. You could have your leave your questions in the comments section. A live response will happen right then and there. So it's basically like a Q&A, and it deals with more than just Star Wars. So we can talk about anything. But if you want to bring Star Wars, we have no problem talking Star Wars in any of the shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put the link in the description below for that as well. So, guys, like I was saying, it is a blast to be back. I cannot wait to see where this year in the Star Wars Canon Library takes us. So, guys, as always, until next time, this is Brian signing off, and may the Force be with you.